John was mad at Alyssa for a long time. He had so much anger, and I don't blame John for the anger. He's locked up for something that he didn't do. So he would call and be angry and lash out, and then I would yell back, and then I'd hang up on him, and eventually I would stop answering the telephone. And I would go a year, 2, without speaking to him.
Well, John Kinsel has been in prison for 26 years, convicted of raping Alyssa when she was just a child, a crime that he has never wavered. He says he did not do that crime. He's never wavered about that. His attorney, Justin Bonus, says he took on John's case because he knows John is an innocent man. Now, Record executive and Innocence Project board member Jason Flom launched his wrongful conviction podcast 6 years ago with the goal to shine a light on people put behind bars or sentenced to death row despite evidence that they are innocent. You say you know he's innocent. Why?
Physical evidence, or the lack thereof. The doctor actually testified, equivocated. The doctor at trial actually testified that the physical evidence was just as suggestive that there was no sexual assault as there was sexual assault, and actually leaned towards the fact that there wasn't a sexual assault here. That's where I think when you look at the claims that Alyssa makes in her testimony, the rape, I mean, you have no physical evidence of the rape. That's problematic, especially when that's the only piece of evidence that convicts John Kinsel. And even just there's a lot of other things as well that goes into that. The way the case was investigated, the child advocacy interview. These are all things that moving forward that we're going to explore. So it isn't just about the recantation. It's about the investigation. It's about the physical evidence, about the lack of physical evidence. And that's the scary thing, is that a person can be convicted of a crime that didn't happen. This happens every day in the criminal justice system.
Yeah, it's not that a crime happened who did it, it's that the crime did not occur and somebody is convicted of a crime that didn't occur. And the only evidence is someone said it did, and then that person says, look, I was a kid, I wanted this person out of my house, he was messing up my deal. I didn't, look, we know that there's a dynamic that when a man comes into a home after 4 or 5 years old and takes on a disciplinary role, doesn't work. Does not work. Children resent that person. They don't like sharing time with mother with that person. They certainly don't like mom's boyfriend coming in and starting to dispense discipline. And there is resentment, and there is very frequently energy to get that person out of the house. But a man sat in prison for 26 years. That's what bothered you about this case.
We'd have to do a 5-hour episode of DrPhil for me to tell you all the things that bother me about this case. We haven't even touched on one of the most outrageous parts of this case, which is there were 2 trials that ended in mistrials, and then there was the 3rd trial where the jury came back with a 9-3 verdict. And I know everyone's sitting there going, well, that's where it ends, right? No one's got more experience with juries than you do. And the fact is, the judge sent them back in to come up with one more vote, because in Louisiana at that time, you could be convicted by a 10-2 jury, which they've overturned last year. No longer can you be convicted by a 10-2 jury.
Nor should you be.
It was a vestige of of pure racism, right? When black people were given the right to serve on juries, some of the states passed laws with these non-unanimous jury verdicts so that those votes wouldn't count. It's insane. But anyway, that was abolished by the Supreme Court last year. But the problem is they didn't change the law retroactively, which is nuts. So how can you say that this is we know now that that is not a just thing. You can't do that in America anymore. But John has to sit in prison for the rest of his life?
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.